Well, we just touched on it, Alexa.
Right.
You know, you've seen the news and the growing concern for the spread of the coronavirus, first in China, then right here in the United States. And we know that you have growing questions and things that, you know, you want to know more about.
Right, it's all everyone's talking about. So joining us now to help answer some of those questions is Dr. Frank Esper, who is a pediatric disease specialist at Cleveland Clinic Children's. Welcome, doctor.
Hey, it's very good to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're really grateful that you're here.
Absolutely.
So first, let's talk about coronavirus's symptoms.
Right.
How can we recognize it?
You know, coronavirus itself is actually just a cold virus. And this one happens to be a new cold virus. And so it's a little more aggressive than the normal colds and flus that we've seen. And that's why we're always, you know, that we're paying so much attention to it right now, because it's so new and we don't know what to expect. But this virus has a lot of the symptoms that you would get from a cold or a flu. The main one being a low-grade fever, followed by a little bit of cough. And then a couple of body aches and some fatigue. This can be any virus, okay? The problem is that usually around day 5, day 7 or so, people start really having breathing problems. And when you start having breathing problems, that's when people are, it becomes much more severe, and we have to help them out as best we can.
Okay.
So how do you get this, and who is mostly at risk for this?
Right. Well, a lot of the data that we're seeing, a lot of the patients that we find with this coronavirus is still in China. And so a lot of the data is coming out of China. And what we're seeing from them is that the majority of people are individuals who are a little bit older, usually 50, 60 years of age at least. Many of them are men. About 60% of people were men. And about a third of them have underlying problems like diabetes or heart problems or lung problems like COPD and asthma, things like that. How is it spread if it is acting like every other coronavirus? And we actually know coronaviruses. We've been studying them for decades. This is stuff that we know that they're covered, or they come from coughing, they come from sneezing. All those little droplets that you see when you sneeze can get onto surfaces, they can get onto your hands, and then from that can pass to other people. And so usually it's not someone coughs in a room and then you breathe it in. That's not how this virus typically acts, although we are still learning a lot about it. And we're still studying how it goes from place to place. If it's like every other coronavirus, you usually cough onto your hand or you cough onto a surface, and then someone touches that surface and then touches their mouth, their eyes, they rub their nose, things like that, and that's how the virus gets in.
So how long is someone contagious? Do we know that?
You know, right now what we're still learning a lot. Every day new information comes out. But what we're seeing right now is that the incubation period, when you first get infected to when you start developing symptoms, usually about 5 days. Okay. About 5 days, 6 days. Usually you don't really get sick until about the second week, all right?
Wow.
But that's one of the reasons why we've been watching, and we may have been hearing all these reports are talking about we're watching people for 14 days, we're watching them for 14 days. That's our best guess, but we're still learning a lot.
It's so hard for me to just kind of figure out what is what, because I mean, there's in the newsroom alone, there's these colds that have been going around, and I'm sure you've heard plenty of it, where people are coughing for weeks, and it's the same symptoms.
It is the same symptoms. Now, so I think it's very important to know, especially here in Ohio, there are no cases in Ohio. There are 11 cases in the United States. Majority of them are in California, a few others in Illinois and Massachusetts. But there are none in Ohio. There was a couple of concerns for people, two students down in Miami, and they were watching very closely, and they have been, what I heard this morning is that they have been deemed negative, and there are no other persons of interest that we're watching for the possibility of this coronavirus here in Ohio. What we do have in Ohio is a whole lot of flu, and influenza is going through our community along with a whole bunch of other viruses. If you have a cough, if you have a cold, it's still something that, especially if you are someone who is at risk of really bad infections, like people who have immune problems or people who have heart or lung problems, or small children or very elderly individuals, they still need to talk to their doctor because it could be flu. And we have treatment and tests to find out if it's the flu or not.
Okay, so you would recommend go in and get tested.
I still recommend and I always say this, you know, if you're concerned about your health, that's why we have physicians. That's why you have your family physician, your pediatrician, or your adult physician to help you out. There are simple tests for a lot of the common viruses, and there are new tests coming out for this new coronavirus. But it is not something that we're seeing here in Ohio yet. There is no reason for you to be worried and get tested for this coronavirus. A lot of people have been asking me, should I be wearing a mask when I'm going to the grocery store or going to the movie theater?
What if someone was on an airplane that was coming from China and you're a giant eagle?
Here's what I will tell you, is that there is no circulation in the community of this coronavirus. We have seen person-to-person spread in the United States that has gone from spouse to spouse, and that's it. There has been no report of those people, the 11 people who came from outside the country, spreading it to other people on the plane, or in the airport, or in the cab, or the Uber, or wherever. You haven't heard any of that, even though we're watching them very closely. We have not seen any of that type of spread. And it's always been within the family.
I know we're running out of time, but my parents just traveled back from Florida, and they said, and not that, I mean, airlines are good about cleaning up, but they said literally, a crew went on and like disinfected that plane before they got on. So I think we're kind of at a safe point. Pets, can pets get this?
You know, pets can actually get some of the viruses that we spread, from coughs and colds, but not this particular virus. This virus did originate from a bat. So if you have a pet bat, maybe there's a problem. But
don't look at me, Holly. I don't have one. That's the one animal I don't have.
It's so scary because we had heard that last week, and it's so scary.
It is our guess that this virus originated from a bat, like a lot of these other coronaviruses do, but there is no spread to pets, and then there's certainly no spread from pets to humans that we've seen.
Because I mean, we see bats out and about.
Right. Well, and we're going to give everyone at home more information. So that's clevelandclinic.org. But doctor, I feel like it's important that you tell everybody at home what you told us before the show, that you really don't need to freak out.
Listen, you gave the flu statistic, I think, is a good one.
Influenza is still the main virus that we're dealing with right now. It is, CDC estimates about 10 to 20,000 people have already died from influenza. No one has died in the United States from this coronavirus. And it is not too late to get your influenza vaccine. So if you haven't gotten your flu shot yet, it is still absolutely something that you can do right now to help protect yourself for the remainder of this cold and flu season.
All right, take care of that. Okay, thank you so much, doctor.
This is really great information.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.